like really slow, like really like minimal movement, because that's what's going to make it sound tight. And obviously palm muting, to get that sound, you just, you rest your palm down. I'm sure most of you already know what palm muting is, but, rest your palm down to get that tight choke sound, so that, like, when you're picking it's really going to accent those notes, and it's got to be really tight, because the double bass and the guitars are basically completely synced up at that point. The double bass is flaring through, so it's got to be really, really dead on with the kick drums. So. So it's 2 downstrokes and then 16ths, as far as I know, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes actually, play the same thing, but for some reason I upstroke it. I don't know why. But no one's gonna notice a difference. Not through a big loud PA system with double bass going on.
Personal preference. I mean, for me, my downstroking is probably my strongest rhythm feature, or feat, or whatever you want to call it. So I tend to do those first 2, 8th notes downstroke, and then the rest is 16th alternate picking, palm muting.
The verse riff, which is basically the same thing, just without the 16ths. And it goes a little like this.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And it goes back into that. So basically, it's the same notes, but you don't go up to the octave up here on the tails, and the tails have 16th note rhythms. So it's instead of doing the 16th notes right here, change that to 8th notes, and then the tails have 16th in them. And so it's one of those things how you can totally use the exact same riff that you've already written and just modify it a little bit, and it can become a different part of the song. And sometimes I think it's a very good thing to keep things simple like that. This is the leading into the chorus, and it just goes 0 1 3 6, and we just play that once. It's just a little ascending part to build up tension until you get to the chorus, which is all music is. I don't know if it's tension and release. If you think about it, you build up tension, you release it, and that's what kind of makes people like what they're listening to. So that's definitely the tension part. And then it goes into the chorus where Jeff and I play 2 different parts. Why don't you play the first part?
The first,
he plays the rhythm, and I play the higher part on this.
The first part, it's basically it's all on the E string. It's very straightforward. Just consistent alternate picking. Basically, it's just, you're just, I don't know, eighth note picking. Yeah. Just eighth note picking, starting on 7, 7, 3, 6, and then basically up to 10, to 12, 15, 11, and then it finishes off with just octaves. And since we're in drop tuning, you make your octaves like this. And it's just 2, 3, and then 6. And then it goes.
Play that riff slow, because it's probably
okay. Yeah.
The more confusing one.
That's basically it slow. And then Mike's part is
yeah, and mine, this is another riff that I changed a little bit for live purposes. And one reason I do that too is when you're recording a record, we have tendency you double riffs, and sometimes you can do 4. Sometimes we've done 6, rhythms, and even on some leads we have 4 different guitar parts going. So you have to kind of, just because it sounds good in the studio with a bunch of layers on it doesn't mean that it's going to sound that good live. So I try to add little things like the high part for the chorus. If you listen to it on record, it's basically only using 2 strings, and it goes. Basically like that, which I think doesn't sound very good by itself. It's very, it sounds good layered, but it just kind of sounds it's very dissonant. He uses a lot of dissonant chords. That's not, but this is very dissonant. It's not, that's a 5th. A little dissonant, But so what I do is I just kind of add in the string the 4th below, and just kind of give it. And then when I go to the dissonant chords, I just kind of, I still hold that note, but I don't really play it. So that's how I do it live. And I also put a lot of delay and a little bit of chorus on a patch in my rig that I use for that live. Kind of just makes it sound, just makes the dissonance not sound so harsh, because that, depending on how you play it, they can almost sound like it's a mistake. So you got to figure out a way, and that's why I kind of like adding that 4th in there. Kind of makes it a little bit more full.
1, 2, 3, 4. Another thing too for this song, it's in the fashion of, it's like we have like these parts that kind of accompany one another, and then like at the end of the part it becomes back into unison. So it's essentially, it's like I'm doing the rhythm, Mike's doing the the part under that, but then like before the part changes to go in the chorus, we end in unison with the octaves. So that's like something very like in fashion with the song. Like that's another key element of the song as far as the writing goes.
And another thing that I do differently live is the first half I play that rhythm. And the rhythm on the record, I believe, actually stays the same on the second time through. But I'm singing a backup there, and I just felt it sounded better too. Some people may disagree with me, but I just changed the rhythm to straight 8 notes. And just play it that way. I just kind of felt like it needed a little bit more to pick up a little bit. I felt like the riff was dragging a little bit live, and kept it like that all the way through. So I just like the way it feels a little bit better, and no one minded. So.